Hey guys. Tonight's story begins with silk sheets, a gilded comb, and a girl who hasn't eaten in 3 days. You're not poor. You're not a peasant. You're something worse. A princess. Your meals are watched. Your body is bargained. Your smile is currency. Every word you speak is recorded, and every silence punished. There's a knife hidden in the folds of your wedding dress, not for defense, but for dignity. So if you've ever dreamed of castles, crowns, or fairy tale endings, this story might change your mind. Because royalty is just another word for prisoner in prettier clothes. So before you get too cozy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this strange little corner of quiet storytelling. And drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's strangely comforting to know who else is drifting off with us around the world. Now, get comfortable, let the day melt away, and we'll drift back together into the quiet corners of the past. You awaken in a stone chamber that smells of cold, damp wax and wet linen, with a sourness that seems to cling to the air itself. The rough walls press close around you, unyielding and gray, as if the room itself wants to remind you where you are. The floor beneath your thin woolen blanket is hard and unforgiving, sending chills through your still drowsy body. Your limbs feel stiff, and when you try to stretch, the cold bites at your skin, making you shiver. Outside, faint murmurs echo through the corridors, the distant clatter of footsteps and low voices, the sound of a world you aren't yet ready to face. At 13, you're not yet a princess, not yet someone with any real power or freedom. You are something else entirely, a piece of property, a bargaining chip in the endless game of alliances and politics played by those far older and colder than you. Your parents' smiles were never really meant for you. They were for the nobles you will marry into, the family that will claim you as their own, like a prized possession. You're betrothed, yes, but not to love or to hope. You're betrothed to obligation, to duty, to the unyielding expectations of a court that will never see you as anything more than a means to an end. The stone walls seem to close in as a small group of servants enters the chamber, their faces a mixture of business and boredom. They don't look at you like you're a person. Instead, their eyes assess, their hands measure, and their voices bark commands. You're ordered out of bed before you can even properly open your eyes. Your blanket is stripped away without ceremony, revealing the pale skin of a girl still too young to understand what is about to be done to her. Cold fingers pull at your nightdress, tugging and loosening the thin fabric until you're standing naked in the icy room. You feel exposed, a raw nerve, laid bare beneath the indifferent gaze of the women inspecting you. They prod at your hips, your arms, your shoulders, speaking in low tones about your figure, your strength, your ability to bear children. The words feel like sharp knives, cutting deeper than any blade. You want to shrink into the cold stone floor, disappear beneath its unforgiving surface. But there is no escape. A stern voice breaks through the murmurs, scolding you for your shivering skin, your pale lips. Stop trembling. You will freeze yourself sick before the day even begins. There is no comfort here, only duty and discipline. You are being prepared for a life in court where smiles are masks and kindness is a weapon wielded only by those with power. You are handed a rough linen shift, too coarse to be comfortable, but it is better than standing naked. Your trembling hands fumble as you try to pull it over your head. The fabric scratches against your skin, rough and unyielding. You catch your reflection in a small, polished bronze mirror resting on a nearby wooden table, a pale girl with wide, frightened eyes and tangled hair. You barely recognize yourself. This frightened child is about to become someone else, someone who must learn to play the roles expected of her, no matter the cost. You listen to the clatter of shoes on stone as more footsteps approach. A noblewoman enters, her dress heavy with silk and jewels, her eyes sharp and unforgiving. She doesn't smile. She doesn't soften. She tells you how to hold yourself, how to walk, how to speak in measured tones that betray nothing. You are no longer just a girl, she says, her voice cold as winter. You are a future lady of the court. Your every move will be watched, your every word weighed. Remember that. You nod, but the weight of her words settles like a stone in your stomach. You want to protest, to scream that you're just a child, but your voice catches in your throat. This is your world now, the one you were born into but never asked for. There will be no room for childish dreams or whispered hopes. The court demands perfection, obedience, silence. A servant hands you a comb, and you attempt to tame your tangled hair. The strands resist, knotting and pulling at your scalp. You bite your lip to hold back a whimper. There will be no tears today. Not here. Not now. You must learn to be still, to be quiet, to be invisible. As the morning light seeps weakly through a narrow window high above, you catch a glimpse of the outside world, a cold gray sky, a stone courtyard where armored guards pace with their swords, and a hawk circles above. It looks distant, untouchable, like a world meant for others. You wonder if you will ever be free enough to walk beneath that sky without fear, without chains of expectation pulling at your wrists. But for now, you are trapped by bloodlines, by promises, by the cruel architecture of a life designed to break spirits and mold obedience. You are 13 years old, caught between childhood and a destiny you never chose. The stone walls close around you again as the servants begin their preparations for the day ahead, washing, dressing, lessons in silence and submission. You want to scream, but the sound catches in your throat. You swallow your fear, tuck it deep inside, like a secret no one else must know. Because in this cold stone chamber, where your future is being carved with cold hands and sharper words, there is only one rule: survive. No matter the cost. They come for you just after dawn, before the frost has melted off the stone windowsill. You're not allowed breakfast. No pottage, no watered-down wine, not even a scrap of coarse bread. You'll bloat, says the head maid with a frown, as though your body is something fermenting, swelling in the dark. You don't ask questions. You don't speak. You've learned already that your silence is the most valuable thing you own, and even that doesn't belong to you. You're led down a corridor that smells like wax polish and ash, your bare feet slapping against the cold flagstones. 2 other girls walk ahead of you, older by a year or 2, but no less pale. No one makes eye contact. No one smiles. Your shift clings to your skin, still damp from the icy cloth they used to wash you earlier. Your hair has been yanked into submission, scraped into braids so tight your scalp throbs. You already feel like livestock being marched to market. You just haven't seen the buyers yet. When you reach the chamber, it's warmer, but not kinder. There's a fire crackling in the hearth, but the room is still stone, still echoing. At the center stands a chair, no, not a chair. A platform. Slightly raised, covered in thin velvet, worn down to its threads. Beside it, a table with parchment, quills, and something worse, a basin of water and a jar of what looks like goose fat. 3 people wait for you. A noble woman with lips pinched so tight they look sewn shut. Her gown gleams like steel-silver brocade, stiff with status. Her rings flash when she folds her arms. She doesn't smile. Beside her, an older man in robes, eyes cloudy but calculating, mouth turned down at the corners as if permanently disappointed. You can smell the tinctures on his skin clove, vinegar, something earthy that reminds you of spoiled roots. The third is a scribe, young, silent, already dipping his quill into ink. Step up, the woman says, and you do, because there is no other choice. You're told to lift your arms. The shift is pulled over your head. You're bare again, beneath the torchlight, in front of eyes that don't blink. There is no privacy, no modesty, just the slow, methodical examination of what you are. Too narrow? The man murmurs, stepping close. You flinch at his breath, wet and sweet like rotting fruit. He grips your chin with two dry fingers and turns your face from side to side. Skin's pale, but no lesions. The woman circles you, the way someone might circle a horse they're thinking of buying. Hips? She asks. The man's hands settle on your waist, then lower. Could widen, he says. With time. You want to scream, or vanish, or crumble into salt and blow away. Instead, you stand there, cold, burning, your cheeks on fire while your toes go numb. The woman leans in, her eyes level with your stomach. No swelling, she says, as if you might have secretly grown a child overnight. Any bleeding yet? You nod, ashamed. Her mouth flattens into something that might be approval. Good. She's ripening. She says it like she's talking about fruit. Not a girl. Not a person. Just an asset approaching market value. Then come your teeth. The man forces your mouth open with two fingers, not gentle. He peers inside, mutters something about enamel, tuts at a crooked incisor. No rot, he says finally. Your hair is tugged, your nails examined. You're made to walk the length of the platform twice. Posture needs correction, the woman notes. She slouches like a servant. She was raised among them. The man replies. You are no longer in the room. Not really. You've floated just a little outside your body, watching this inspection like a bird on the beam above, watching a pale, trembling figure be poked, measured, recorded. Nothing about you belongs to you. Not your name, not your skin, not your blood, which will soon be bartered for land and allegiance. You are becoming a ledger item. When it's finally over, the scribe rolls up the parchment and ties it with a ribbon, the color of dried roses. You are handed your shift again, and this time it feels worse than nakedness. Because now you know exactly what it's meant to cover. The noblewoman tilts her head. She'll do, she says. Not she's healthy. Not she's lovely. Just she'll do us, if passing into womanhood means accepting adequacy as your highest form of praise. The man nods. Acceptable. That word lodges deep in your chest, like a pebble in wet wool. As you're led back down the corridor, the chill seeps back into your bones. But now it's colder than before. Now it carries the weight of what's been taken from you, not with violence, but with ceremony. Not with chains, but with ink and quiet hands. You are acceptable. That's what they said. And in this world, that's as good as it gets. The room is warm, but your hands are cold. You sit on a low stool beside a carved oak table, feet tucked neatly beneath you like you were taught. The candlelight flickers against parchment, ink, and the sheen of gold rings stacked on a stranger's hand. The chamber smells like beeswax and violets, and something darker beneath Ithor's sweat, damp wool, sour wine on stale breath. You breathe through your mouth so you don't gag. You are 13, and today is not a wedding. It is something colder, a contract. They told you 2 days ago, in the language adults use when they want children to obey without understanding. Your mother sat beside you, her hand heavy on your shoulder, her smile fixed and distant. You've been chosen, she said, like it was a reward. Your father stood at the window, arms crossed behind his back, nodding as if this was the culmination of all your usefulness. Your match is twice your age and 10 times your consequence. Lord Edmund of Haldenmore, a name that sounds like a cough. He has land, a title, and the ear of the crown. He also has scars down one cheek and a crooked tooth he never bothered to fix. You saw that when he arrived yesterday, stepping down from his black horse with a grunt and a joke no one dared laugh at. He's tall and thick around the middle, and when he smiled at you, it looked more like a smirk someone carved into rotten wood. Now he sits across from you, a goblet in one hand, the other resting casually near the rolled contract. He doesn't speak to you. He speaks around you. To your father, to the scribe, to the priest, standing stiffly near the door. You are present, but unnecessary. The details are being finalized: dowry, land rights, future heirs not yet born but already planned like crops. You hear your father say, "She's young, yes, but strong. My wife bled early, and she bore 4. He laughs, like that's the same as offering a sturdy ox. Your mother doesn't laugh. She just smooths the wrinkles from her skirt and says nothing. The priest clears his throat. The bride may sign. It's not a question. It's an instruction. The scribe places the document in front of you, then offers you a quill. The ink is thick and dark, smelling of iron and vinegar. Your hand trembles as you take it, fingers slick with sweat. You try to steady yourself. You don't want to look like a child, though every part of you still is. But before you can dip the pen, Lord Edmund speaks for the first time. "None of that," he says, and he reaches into his belt pouch and pulls out a silver-bladed knife. Blood holds stronger than ink. The room stills. The priest hesitates. Your mother opens her mouth, then closes it again. Your father nods once, slowly, as if this too is reasonable. The scribe looks away. The knife lands on the table with a quiet thud. You're not asked if you're afraid. You're not allowed to be. You're a future Lady of Haldenmore, and Lady Haldenmore must not flinch. You take the blade. Your hand stings as you press the tip into the side of your thumb, just hard enough to break the skin. A drop wells up. Another follows. It feels like something deeper than blood is leaking out of you. Childhood, maybe. You press your bleeding thumb to the paper, next to your name already written in elegant letters by someone else. The red soaks into the fibers. It's done. There is a beat of silence. Then Lord Edmund chuckles. Well, she's brave enough at least. The men nod. The priest murmurs a blessing. The scribe ties the contract with red ribbon, sealing it with wax and the ring of your father's signet. It is now official, binding, irrevocable. You are betrothed. The goblet passes your way. It's part of the ritual lone sip to mark the union. You lift it with both hands. The wine is sour, burning your throat. You swallow anyway. Your mother leans in, brushing hair from your face. "Smile," she whispers, her breath trembling. "He's watching." So you do. A smile like frost on a window pane. Thin, brittle, trying to look like something it isn't. That night, you sit on your bed, still in your ceremony dress. The fire has burned low. The wind slips through the shutters, humming like a lullaby sung by ghosts. You press your bandaged thumb to your lips. It still throbs. You signed your future in blood, and no one asked if you wanted it. You're not allowed to see the dress until the morning sun cuts through the frost on the window panes. It arrives wrapped in linen and carried like a holy relic by 2 seamstresses who set it gently across the bench in the center of your chamber. You expect to feel awe. Instead, you feel cold. The room is already filled with people maids with combs, the steward with pins, your mother watching from the corner like a statue no one dares dust. Everyone is moving, but no one speaks your name. The dress is the only name that matters now. They undress you quickly. You're used to that part. Arms lifted, shift pulled over your head, body exposed to the quiet chill of the stone chamber. There's no modesty left in you, just the memory of what it felt like to own your own skin. Then the corset comes. It looks harmless at first, just stiffened linen and loops of lacing, until they begin pulling. One maid anchors her foot against your back, while the other tightens the cords, inch by inch, until your ribs scream and your lungs are left with the space of a birdcage. You make a sound, something between a gasp and a protest, but your mother silences it with a look. "Stand tall," she says. "You mustn't slouch. It spoils the silhouette. You're not breathing. You're arranging yourself around the absence of breath." Next comes the wool underskirt, thick, heavy. It clings to your legs like wet bark and smells faintly of lavender and dust. Layer after layer is added, each one dragging your body further from the girl you remember. Petticoats, stays, the silk outer skirt that hisses like a snake every time you shift your weight. The bodice is embroidered with silver thread, delicate vines curling over your chest like ivy choking a wall. It's beautiful. You hate it. By the time they place the veil on your head, your vision has narrowed to pinholes. The lace is fine, soft as breath, but it hangs before your eyes like fog. You can barely see through it, and maybe that's the point. The veil isn't for you, it's for them. To soften you, blur you, make you less real, less girl, more bride. The seamstress steps back. Everyone does. You're told to turn, slowly, so they can admire the finished product. You do, because you must. You walk in a circle, each step a small negotiation with the weight pressing down on your hips, your spine, your chest. Your breath comes in shallow sips, and your head feels distant, like it's floating a few inches above your body. She'll be lovely in the procession, someone says. You aren't sure who. It doesn't matter. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the polished silver mirror. For a moment, you don't recognize the girl staring back. Her skin is too pale, her eyes too wide. She doesn't blink. She doesn't move. The dress is wearing her, not the other way around. And yet, everyone in the room is nodding with satisfaction. This is success. This is the pinnacle of girlhood. To become unrecognizable and called beautiful for it. A maid brings a chair. You're told to sit, but the corset won't let you bend. You perch instead, back straight, knees together, hands folded like paper. You're reminded to smile just enough to seem serene, not enough to crease the veil. Outside, the bell tower tolls. You count the chimes. 11. Mid-morning. By nightfall, you'll be bound to a man who smells like horse sweat and power. By dawn, your name will be different. And this dress, this cage of silk and bone, will hang stained in a chest you won't own. Do you feel elegant? The steward asks, his quill hovering over a checklist you'll never see. You nod, because you're supposed to. But the truth is, you feel like a candle pressed into a mold that doesn't fit. Shaped, trimmed, wrapped in gold foil, and called a gift. They fuss around you for another hour adjusting seams, smoothing sleeves, debating whether your shoes should show beneath the hem. You're not part of the conversation, you're the object of it. When it's over, you're not undressed. Not yet. You're told to walk, to practice gliding. Float, someone says. A princess does not stomp. You try, even though your ribs feel like splintered wood and your head is spinning like a weather vane. You walk to the door and back. No one applauds. That's not the point. They simply nod again. She'll do. You've heard those words before. They begin to unlace the corset. Carefully, slowly. Each breath you reclaim feels stolen. When the final ribbon slips free, you gasp like a drowning girl breaking the surface. No one notices. The dress is folded back into its linen wrap. You are redressed in your simpler shift. The room empties. Your mother stays behind. She watches you as you press your hand to your side, feeling the bruise blooming beneath your ribs. Elegance, she says, always costs something. You nod, not because you agree, but because you don't have the air left to disagree. The feast is over. The hall is quiet now, save for the distant scrape of plates being cleared, and the faint, drunken laughter echoing from some corridor far away. You sit on the edge of the bed in a room lit only by firelight, your hands folded tightly in your lap to keep them from shaking. The dress you wore, the one that scraped your ribs raw and left your feet blistered, is gone, replaced by a white nightgown so thin it barely counts as clothing. The air is warm from the hearth, but your skin feels cold. Not chilled, exposed. You've been told what's coming, but no one explained it properly. They gave you hints wrapped in euphemisms, words like duty and union and obedience. A woman with a sour mouth and stiff sleeves whispered that it would hurt, but not forever. She said to lie still. That resistance makes it worse, that the bleeding is proof Proof of what? She didn't say. You didn't ask. You didn't want to know. The door creaks open. He enters. Your husband, Lord Edmund of Haldenmoor. The man who pressed wine into your hand with fingers that brushed too long, who stared at your throat while toasting your parents, who laughed when you flinched at the cold iron knife during the signing of the contract. He's wearing a loose shirt and nothing else. He reeks of sweat and wine and smoke and something sharp beneath it, something like metal or wet leather. He doesn't speak to you, not at first. He closes the door, bolts it, and moves to the table to pour himself another drink. You watch the firelight flicker across the silver buckle of his belt. You wish the fire would go out. You wish you could too. He turns to you and smiles. Not kindly. The kind of smile someone might give a meal before carving into it. Well, little dove, he says, voice thick and slow. Time to earn your crown. He crosses the room. Each step is deliberate, soft on the rug but loud in your chest. You feel your heartbeat in your teeth. Your breath gets stuck somewhere behind your ribs. He doesn't ask permission. He doesn't check if you're ready. Because you're not supposed to be. That's not the point. You lie back as instructed. Stiff. Silent. His hands are heavy, rough, impatient. You want to disappear, but there's nowhere left to go. Your body doesn't feel like yours anymore. It hasn't in weeks. But this is different. This is something taken. It hurts. Not just the way they said it would. Not just a sting or a stretch. It feels like something is breaking. Like something has been unstitched inside you. Your eyes stay wide open because if you blink, the tears might fall. And you've learned crying makes them think you're weak. You bite the inside of your cheek until it bleeds. He grunts, moves, finishes. He doesn't look at you. He just rises, grabs the edge of the sheet, and wipes himself with it like a napkin at dinner. Then he pulls on his shirt, rebuckles his belt, and calls out. It's done. The door opens before you can even cover yourself. 2 women enter, maids or matrons or midwives, you can't tell anymore. They move straight to the bed. You freeze. One pulls the sheet aside. The other lifts the edge, holds it up to the firelight. There's blood. Not much, but enough. Good, one says. Whole. The other nods. The door opens again. Your mother is there. The priest. A steward. They file in as if rehearsed. They don't look at you, not directly. They look at the stained sheet held high like a flag of victory. There is murmured approval. The priest mumbles a blessing. Your mother nods satisfied, relieved, proud. You can't tell. The steward folds the sheet carefully and places it into a silk-lined box. Evidence. You are evidence. The room clears out in less than a minute. The door shuts. The bolt slides back into place. You are alone again. The fire crackles. Somewhere below, a door slams. Laughter follows. Your husband is probably back in the hall already, boasting over another goblet. You lie there, legs pulled up, nightgown twisted, lips bitten raw. You are praised. The marriage is official. The alliance secured. Everything went right. And yet you feel like something died. Not in the dramatic, fairy tale sense. Nothing poetic. Just a quiet stillness deep inside, like a door closed and locked from the inside of your ribs. You're not sure what's behind it. You're not sure you want to know. You close your eyes. And for the first time that night, you let yourself cry. Not loudly. Not beautifully. Just a quiet drip of tears into the pillow. No one will see them. No one is looking anymore. You walk through the corridor with your hands folded just so, fingers laced, thumbs touching. That's what they taught you. Always keep your hands visible, still, composed. Idle fingers invite speculation. Nervous hands invite rumors. In the court, everything is a message, and your body is the parchment they love to read. The corridor opens into the great hollow cavern of stone and tapestry and sound, Laughter dances along the walls, punctuated by the clink of goblets and the hush of silk on stone. You step inside and immediately feel it, the weight of eyes. Some subtle, others not. A glance from a nobleman lingers a second too long. A baron's wife leans close to another and whispers behind her sleeve. No one greets you first. You are acknowledged only after you've been measured. This is the court. It smells like perfume and sweat, roasted meat, and rotting politics. Everything polished, everything sharpened. The nobles gather in little knots of velvet and ambition, pretending not to look while watching everything. And you are the newest ornament, gilded, young, freshly bound to a man with power. That makes you interesting. That also makes you dangerous. You sit where you are told to sit, spine straight, eyes lowered just enough to appear demure, but not so much that you seem dull. It's a line you are expected to walk forever, quiet but not meek, modest but not boring, graceful but never so graceful that someone might accuse you of vanity. Every movement is choreography, every expression a performance. You are being observed, dissected, rewritten in real time by people who smile with their mouths, but not their eyes. Two ladies pass behind you. Their laughter is brittle, sugar-glazed. One says something about youthful bloom. The other says your name in a tone that makes it sound like a joke. They are older, sharper. They remember being you. They also remember how quickly that glow fades. Their smiles carry knives. A man with red velvet sleeves stops in front of your seat. You don't know his name yet, but you've seen him speak to your husband, laugh with a little too much teeth. He bows slightly, and his gaze doesn't meet your eyes. It never does. It lingers lower, longer. "My lady," he says, voice syrupy. "The hall is brighter with you in it." You say thank you, nothing else. Not because you're shy, because you know what happens when you're warm and what happens when you're cold. Either way, it becomes a story. She blushed. She was rude. She's clever. She's cold. She thinks she's better. She doesn't think at all. There is no right way to be here, only 1,000 wrong ways. So you say nothing. That, at least, they can't misquote. When he leaves, you exhale slowly, carefully, like someone blowing out a candle in the wind. Later, you walk through the gallery. Paintings line the walls, ancient faces, locked behind varnish and shadow. Queens who smiled like saints and were devoured like meat. You wonder if they, too, felt like furniture being appraised. If they stood in rooms like this and wondered how much of themselves they'd have to erase to survive. Your lady-in-waiting appears at your side. She's your age, but her eyes are older. "They're talking about you," she says, like it's weather. You ask who. She shrugs. "Everyone." You don't ask what they're saying. You don't want to know. But you already feel it in the way people shift when you walk past, like heat following a flame. In this place, visibility is danger. Invisibility is death. You are too new to be ignored, too young to be respected, too married to be left alone. That makes you interesting. And here, interesting things get chewed. You try not to fidget. You try not to stumble. You try not to smile too widely or appear too severe. Because everything is too something. You are always too much or not enough. Later at supper, your husband speaks over you. That's not surprising. What surprises you is how many people watch your face while he does it, waiting for a reaction, a flicker, a wince. You give them nothing. This is your armor now, silence. You wear it like steel beneath your silk, because words are currency here, and yours are still too cheap. One wrong comment, and they'll spend them for you. You've seen it already. Women cut to pieces in conversation and sewn back together as punchlines. So you nod, you smile, you sip. You watch the court watching you, and you say absolutely nothing. The table is long enough to bury a king on, stretching from one end of the great hall to the other, draped in linen so white it almost glows in the firelight. Gold dishes glint beneath chandeliers. Pewter goblets crowd each place setting. The food, when it arrives, looks like something from a painting guard full piles of roasted quail, trout glazed in something sour, pears soaked in wine and stacked like jewels. It looks divine. It smells overwhelming. And none of it feels like it belongs to you. You are starving. Your stomach clenches as the platters pass by, carried by servants who don't meet your eyes. The hunger has been building for days, coiling low and tight beneath your ribs. This is your third feast since the wedding. You've learned how it works now. What to touch, what to leave, what to pretend to enjoy while swallowing as little as possible. You've also learned that the meal is not about nourishment, it's about optics. You sit beside your husband, your chair slightly lower than his. He eats freely, tearing bread with thick fingers, slathering it with butter and salt. He drinks deep from his goblet. His plate is a battlefield of bones and sauce. Yours, meanwhile, must remain mostly untouched. A performance of restraint, a portrait of discipline. You lift your fork silver, too heavy, already slick with condensation, and cut a sliver from the fish placed before you. It flakes oddly, too soft, with a smell that turns your stomach. You place it delicately on your tongue. Smile, chew, swallow. It's too salty, too old. You force it down anyway. Across the table, a duchess dabs at her mouth with a lace napkin and comments that you're looking well-favored, which means thin, which means acceptable, which means you haven't eaten enough to offend anyone. You nod, politely. You sip your wine. It's bitter and smoky, like someone tried to bottle a forest fire. It burns going down. Someone mentions your waist. Not to you, about you, as if you weren't there. Your mother smiles like she's the one who cinched the corset. She probably is. The servants bring another coarse roasted pigeons, delicate and greasy, swimming in a thick gravy that smells faintly of blood and cloves. A sliver is placed on your plate. You cut into it. You chew. You swallow. You smile again. That's all this meal eyes rehearsed grace, in the face of discomfort. Your husband laughs loudly. His hand lands on your thigh beneath the table. You don't flinch. That too would be noticed. Another sip of wine. Another bite of venison that tastes like copper and smoke. The richness is too much. It coats your tongue, clogs your throat. You've eaten almost nothing, but already you feel ill. You excuse yourself. The corridor is cool, dark, lined with tapestries and the faint scent of dried lavender. You find a niche behind one of the doors. Near a stairwell, you kneel. You vomit as quietly as you can. Nothing dramatic. Just the betrayal of your body emptying itself of everything it tried to pretend it could accept. No one sees. No one comes looking. You rinse your mouth from the flask tucked in your sleeve rose water and mint. Every woman has one. You press your hands to your stomach, trying to will it back into stillness. When you stand, you straighten your skirts, wipe your eyes, smooth your hair. You rehearse your smile. Then you walk back in. No one mentions your absence. They wouldn't dare. But their eyes flicker to you when you sit, as if confirming you're still playing the game. Dessert is served. Poached pears again, this time in honey and spice, so sweet they sting your teeth. You cut a bite. You lift it to your lips. You set it down. Across the hall, a girl younger than you is laughing too loudly. Her cheeks are full, her plate nearly clean. You see the glance she gets from the lady beside Hera, look of warning wrapped in a smile. You know what that means. Thin is noble. Hungry is holy. You don't eat another bite. Your education begins before the sun rises and ends only when the candles are burned down to stubs. Each day is a carefully measured, cage-polished, perfumed, and perfectly timed. You are awakened with the sound of the bell, dressed in layers of linen and expectation, and seated in the west drawing room with a straight back and quiet hands. The room smells faintly of lavender and ink, but underneath that, it smells like dust and boredom. You are 13, married, crowned, and now you must be made presentable. They teach you how to sit ankles crossed, hands folded, back straight but never stiff. You're corrected when your spine leans too far. Again when your fingers fidget. Again when your eyes drift to the window. A lady's gaze must stay grounded. A princess doesn't daydream. You learn embroidery first. Not because it's useful, but because it teaches you to sit still for hours and say nothing. You stitch roses into linen with bloodied fingertips, while a tutor hums to herself beside you. She never speaks unless correcting. You pierce the fabric wrong. She taps your knuckles. Too slow. She sighs. The pain in your wrist means nothing. The ache in your back means you're doing it right. Quiet suffering is part of the lesson. Then the curtsying. Again and again, practiced in front of a mirror until your knees burn. You're taught how to bow to a duchess, a queen, a visiting ambassador, and your husband. Always your husband. Head down, eyes lowered, smile soft, even when your neck cramps, even when your stomach churns. Your body must be fluent in deference. Language lessons follow Latin, French, and silence. The first two are for diplomacy. The last is for survival. You recite greetings in French with perfect accent, but when you ask what the words mean, your tutor frowns. Don't speak out of turn, she says. You're here to learn obedience, not philosophy. You try again the next day. What does Virtus mean? You ask after reciting a passage in Latin. The room stills. The tutor's smile freezes. It is not your place to question the meaning of words. It is your place to pronounce them well. You learn to stop asking. History is not offered. Neither is mathematics, or science, or law. You are told of queens who were beloved and queens who were burned. You are told what they wore, how they knelt, how they bore sons. You are not told what they thought. Thought is not part of your inheritance. You memorize the names of great families. You memorize the lineage of your husband. You trace the veins of power across the court, like embroidery threads, interwoven, delicate, prone to unraveling at the slightest pull. You are told never to speak of what you overhear. Secrets are currency, and princesses do not spend what they cannot afford to lose. Once, you ask about astronomy. The stars fascinate you, how they hang like lanterns, how they move without permission. The tutor shakes her head. No, that's for scholars, or madmen. Or kings, you ask. The tutor blinks. Then she slaps your wrist. Not hard enough to bruise, just enough to end the conversation. You learn to keep your curiosity tucked beneath your tongue like a piece of sour candy. You dissolve it slowly, secretly, until the taste fades and the questions go quiet. Your daily walks are measured in steps, not wonder. You're allowed exactly 20 minutes in the garden each morning, flanked by maids and a guard who never speaks. You walk between rose bushes and hedges, shaped like lions. The air smells like damp earth and clipped stems. You're not allowed to run, or sing, or read while walking. Once, you tried. The book was taken. You weren't given another. At night, you write letters you never send. To no one. To yourself. You fold them into squares and hide them under your mattress. They're filled with questions you're no longer allowed to say out loud. Why does the sky change colors at dusk? Why do some flowers only open in moonlight? Why are you learning everything except how to be a person? The next morning, you're handed another embroidery hoop. More roses, more thorns. Your fingers are raw, but you stitch anyway. Because obedience is your subject now, and you are passing with silence. They say nothing when you begin to bleed. Not at first. Not when you mention the ache in your lower back, or how your stomach twists like wet rope. Not when you lose your appetite, or when you start waking up soaked in sweat. They only start to care when the bleeding doesn't stop. It's early morning. The sky outside is still the color of ash. You're curled on the floor beside your bed, the sheets tangled around your ankles, blood soaking into the cold stone beneath you. It smells sharp, raw, wrong, like something sacred has been spilled. You call out. Once. Then again, a maid hears. There is a flurry of footsteps, hushed voices, the rustle of skirts. Hands lift you, clean you, place you in fresh linen. You are told not to speak. The midwife comes. Older, quiet, with fingers like dry twigs. She presses them to your stomach, listens to your breath, says nothing. Her eyes flick to the pale smear on the discarded cloths. She nods once. It's past. She doesn't say what. You know anyway. You are 14. You were carrying a future. And now, you are not. No one tells you how common this is. No one tells you it will feel like failure. No one tells you how empty your body will feel after. Just hollow skin and muscle, trying to remember what it once held. Your mother visits that evening. She does not take your hand. She does not sit. She stands near the hearth, eyes fixed on the flames, and says, "It happens." Then she smooths the front of her gown and adds, "You're young. There's time." Your husband does not come at all. The next day, you are expected to eat in the great hall again, to sit straight in your chair, sip from your goblet, and pretend nothing changed. You are praised for your color pale and delicate, like marble. They say it suits you. They mean it makes you look quiet, gentle, compliant. No one mentions the baby. No one uses the word. You are told to rest, but not for long. Your body is a field, and it must be prepared again. Another season, another planting, another attempt. Try again, they say. You're a vessel, a broken one for now, but repairs can be made. You lie in bed and feel the ache deep in your hips, where something once grew. You trace your own stomach with your fingertips, remembering how it felt to hope. It was fear, mostly. But inside that fear was a flicker of something else, a beginning. And now there is nothing but a cold, sterile ache. The palace moves on. Your lady-in-waiting brings you embroidery. You stare at the threads and think only of blood. Red, pink, brown, the changing colors. How your body tried to hold on and then gave up without asking. At night, you cry quietly, into the pillow, into your hands, into the hollow space beneath your ribs. You're not mourning a child. You never saw its face, never felt it move. You are mourning the part of yourself that dared to believe you could do this right. When the priest comes to visit, he does not offer comfort. He offers repentance. The body fails, he says. When the soul is troubled, he tells you to pray more, to ask for strength, to ask for forgiveness. You nod. Fold your hands. Pretend to pray. You don't ask what you're supposed to be sorry for. You already know. You weren't enough. Not yet. The next moon cycle, you are given stronger tonics, herbs that taste like earth and bitterness. You are told they will prepare the womb, as if you are soil to be tilled. You drink them. You return to your lessons. You return to the table. You return to him. Because no one is waiting for your grief. No one is carving a place for your sorrow. There is no funeral, no name, no mourning dress. Just a quiet, bleeding void where something once began. And the endless, relentless expectation that you will try again. Soon, the air changes when she enters the room. No bells announce her, no trumpets or grand procession. Just the soft scrape of her heels on the stone floor and the sudden stillness of every servant within earshot. Even the fire in the hearth seems to hush, flames dimming slightly as if in deference. The Queen Mother doesn't knock. She doesn't wait. The door opens, and there she is wrapped in black silk, sharp as flint and older than the palace itself. You rise, quickly, out of instinct more than respect. No one told you she was coming. You haven't seen her since the wedding, when she watched the ceremony from her high-backed chair like a hawk on a cliff. She hadn't spoken to you then, just watched. You'd felt her gaze the entire time, cold and clinical, like a butcher evaluating meat. She closes the door behind her. No attendants, no ladies, just the smell of dried herbs, cold air, and old lavender clinging to the folds of her gown. "You may sit," she says, and you obey, because no one has ever told her no. She takes the seat across from you, a low chair by the window. The light cuts across her face in cruel-lined cheekbones, sharp as the edge of a blade, mouth a thin press of disdain. Her eyes are the same color as yours. That's the first thing you notice. The second is that hers don't blink as often. They don't need to. "You've had a loss," she says, with all the warmth of frost on stone. You nod. Slowly. She studies you. Not kindly. She's not here for kindness. "I bled 3 before I bore a living heir," she says. "One came too early. One didn't cry. One was taken before I saw its face. After the third, the king didn't speak to me for a month. You're not sure if this is meant as sympathy or a warning. I was 16 before I carried one to term. 17 when I stopped crying at night." She leans in slightly, her voice low, dry as parchment. "No one will remember the ones you lose," she says. "Not even you. If you're lucky, you want to say something, anything. But the silence between you is thick, and she seems to prefer it that way." Her eyes flick to your stomach, then to your hands, then to your mouth. "You're too expressive," she says, "too open. Your face gives you away. That won't last, or you won't." She sits back, lacing her fingers in her lap. Her rings click against each other like teeth. You think power comes from love, from charm, from beauty. She smiles, then small, cruel. It doesn't. Power comes from being underestimated. You feel a strange tightness in your throat, like a scream that forgot how to form. "They will use you," she continues. "Your face, your youth, your womb. You're a page in a ledger, a line in a treaty, a bargaining chip." She gestures toward the door without looking at it. "You want to survive this place? Be quiet, be clever, be forgettable." The words sit in the air, like smoke. You blink, but don't speak. She stands, the movement slow but deliberate, like a cat uncoiling. She moves toward the window and glances out at the gray courtyard below. Smile at the right men, laugh at the right jokes, cry only in locked rooms. She pauses. Her voice softens, just enough to pass for human. "And never love him. That is the surest way to die here." You look at her then. Really look. And for a split second, you see the girl she once was, the one who stood where you're sitting, in silk and expectation, waiting to become something she didn't understand. But the moment flickers and dies. The woman before you is steel, hardened, tempered by years of obedience mistaken for power. She turns from the window, walks to the door, opens it. Then she looks back at you, once. "You won't last long if you stay soft," she says. "But you'll be dead if you go hard too quickly. Learn the middle. That's where queens live." The door shuts behind her. You don't breathe for several seconds. And when you do, it feels like inhaling smoke. It starts with the shiver. You think it's the morning cold, the way the stone floors bite at your feet when you rise, the way the winter seeps into the bones of the palace no matter how many fires are lit. You wrap yourself tighter in the shawl, sip the bitter tonic they place by your bedside, and go about your duties. You smile when spoken to. You sit through embroidery, through mass, through dinner, even when your teeth begin to chatter behind your closed lips. By nightfall, you're burning. The sweat comes in waves, hot and sour, soaking through your shift, and the silks laid atop it. The maid finds you curled on the floor beside the hearth, shaking, mumbling, your breath coming in short, sharp gasps. She calls for help. The help takes its time. When the physicians arrive, they bring leeches. They come with bundles of cloth and wooden cases that rattle when they set them down. They don't speak to you. They speak around you, as if you are a mattress being inspected, a faulty lantern, a horse that stumbled. They strip you down to your chemise, tilt your chin, press their fingers to your pulse, your stomach, your temples. They mutter in Latin, in French, in tones of concern laced with irritation. You are not important. Not really. But you are married to someone who is. The leeches are placed on your skin, cold, wet, writhing. You feel them latch. You are too weak to scream, but your eyes flood with tears. One of the physicians dabs them away, not unkindly, but more to prevent distraction than to soothe. The other murmurs a prayer. It does not comfort you. The bleeding is supposed to bring balance. They say your humors are out of order. Too much heat, too much bile. The blood will carry the illness away. You want to ask what they mean. You want to ask what's wrong with you. But your tongue feels thick. Your throat is dry. And they are already discussing herbs. Your chamber becomes a sick room. The windows are shuttered. The air grows heavy with the stink of boiled roots and scorched rosemary. Wet linens pile in the corners. Bowls of dark water, flecked with something oily, sit under the bed. A priest comes. He blesses the doorway. He does not come inside. No one tells you what they suspect. They don't say the word, but you hear it whispered. Plague. A lesser one, maybe. Or a fever carried by fleas. Someone from the kitchens died 2 nights ago. They say it was a chill, but the staff is thinner today. Faces are missing. Voices are gone. No one looks you in the eye when they enter your room now. Some wear cloth over their mouths. Some hold sprigs of lavender to their noses. You drift in and out of awareness. Time folds. The days bleed together. You dream of fire and ice, of your mother's voice, of a child you never met. You wake screaming once, clawing at the sheets. No one comes. They leave food on the table. Broth, bread, apples. You cannot eat. Your body won't allow it. You vomit quietly into a basin. The maid empties it without a word. Sometimes your husband visits from the threshold. He peers in like someone inspecting a painting that started to peel. He asks how you are. Before you can answer, he's already turned away. Keep her alive, you hear him say. For now. No one says anything kind. No one strokes your hair or holds your hand. They treat you like a candle, flickering in the wind, useful only if it keeps burning, forgettable if it goes out. Eventually, the fever breaks. It doesn't feel like triumph. It feels like a slow, sticky return to a world that didn't wait for you. You lie in your damp sheets, blinking at the ceiling, unsure of how many days you lost. Your body feels hollowed, wrung out, lighter, but not in any way that suggests relief. A new physician arrives. He says you'll live. He sounds almost disappointed. Later, a servant opens the shutters. Light spills across your face. You flinch. The court has moved on. There was a hunt, a banquet, a visiting prince. No one mentions you were gone. Your name doesn't come up at supper. You were ill. You are better. That is all. No one asks if you're still in pain. No one cares, unless you die. The chapel smells like cold stone and beeswax, the kind that clings to your clothes and hair long after you've left. You kneel on the worn cushion, legs folded beneath you, back straight, palms together. The stained glass windows above flicker with dying light, throwing fractured halos across the marble floor. Your breath is shallow, not from reverence, but from habit. It's easier not to feel anything when you breathe softly. You are expected to pray 5 times a day, not for comfort, not for clarity, but because guilt requires ritual. Your prayers are rehearsed. lines delivered to the ceiling like offerings, Hail Marys and Our Fathers whispered through cracked lips, syllables shaped like ash. You do not know if you believe in the God they speak of, but belief is not required. Obedience is. The confessor waits for you at the end of the aisle, always cloaked in shadow, always watching. His voice is low and syrupy, like honey gone sour. He never touches you, but he doesn't need to. His eyes do more than hands ever could. He asks about your sins. You tell him about the food you didn't eat, about the moments you forgot to curtsy, about the pride you felt when someone complimented your embroidery. Small things, harmless things, lies dressed as penance. Then he asks about your dreams. You pause. Every time. He leans closer in the dark, cloaked in velvet and incense, as though your secrets are the incense itself, something to be burned, something to be inhaled. He says dreams are windows to the soul, that a pure woman has pure sleep, that the mind betrays the flesh before the flesh ever acts. You lie. You say you dream of angels, of hymns, of candlelight flickering in holy silence. You do not say that sometimes you dream of running, of climbing the palace walls barefoot and wild-haired, of tearing through the forest until your lungs burst with air not measured by duty. You do not say that you've dreamed of screaming, of pressing your hands to your own mouth to keep the sound in. You say what he wants to hear. You have learned that truth, like blood, should be kept hidden. Outside the chapel, the bells ring. A call to the next prayer. You rise, knees stiff, skirts heavy. The corridor outside is lined with portraits of saintsmen in agony, women with arrows through their breasts, halos glowing faintly behind their painted heads. Suffering, you are told, is a form of glory. Heaven is not comfort. Heaven is endurance. You pass the other ladies in the hall. They nod, dip their heads, press their fingers to their lips. Everyone is quiet now. Everyone is rehearsing their salvation. You hear the chant before you see the room low, slow, Latin, threading through the air like mist. Evening prayer. You sit in the second pew, hands folded once more, spine aching from repetition. The priest reads from the book of Judith. Her virtue, her suffering, her reward. You are not allowed to read it yourself. Women's minds are not meant for scripture. You must listen. You must trust. You do not trust him. You do not trust any man whose robes sweep the floor like secrets. But you bow your head anyway. Sin, they say, is a shadow. Yours follows you even into dreams. Your body is temptation. Your voice is risk. Your silence, your only grace. Once, you asked why you were born a woman if women were vessels for sin. The tutors slapped your wrist so hard you couldn't write for 2 days. You never asked again. Sometimes, when no one is looking, you press your forehead to the cold stone of the chapel wall and wonder if God is listening. Not the one they tell you about, not the one who demands obedience and confession, but the one who might remember who you were before you learned to kneel without question. No answer ever comes. The next morning, the cycle begins again. Pray, confess, obey, endure. And when your hands ache from being folded too long, when your lips are raw from whispering repentance, when your heart feels like it's shrinking to fit the shape they want it to be, you tell yourself, this is holiness. Even if it feels like a cage, even if the bars are made of gold. She arrives quietly, just after your fever breaks, just after your confessor says you're strong enough for company again. Her name is soft, forgettable, wrapped in a breathy accent that makes everything she says sound like it came from a poem. She is your age, almost exactly. Her smile is immediate, wide and warm, the kind that feels like a blanket thrown over cold shoulders. She curtsies low, says she's been assigned to you, a companion, a shadow, a friend. You don't have friends here, but she brings a deck of painted cards and asks if you've ever played. She sneaks you sugared almonds from the kitchens when no one's watching. She whispers gossip about the Baron's mistress and rolls her eyes at the priest's sermons. She laughs with her whole body. It's disarming. You laugh too. You begin to trust her. It's a strange thing, letting someone into your quiet. She starts combing your hair at night, humming softly while her fingers work through the tangles. She knows where your robe is kept, how you like your tea, which books you pretend not to read. She notices when your hands tremble. She notices when they don't. She tells you about her childhood in the South. Warm days, olive trees, a river that ran behind her house. She makes you miss a place you've never seen. One afternoon, while the court naps and the chapel bells sleep, you tell her a secret. Just one. You say you sometimes wish you weren't a princess, that you could vanish, that being worshipped like a relic feels more like being buried alive. She nods, doesn't blink, doesn't gasp, just says, "Me too." You think that's what friendship sounds like. That night at supper, your husband asks if your dreams still trouble you. His tone is idle, too idle, as if the question were about the weather. You freeze. The priest, sitting to his left, looks up from his stew. He smiles. She's confessed her restless heart, your grace. We're guiding her back to still waters. The heat rises in your cheeks before the stew does in your throat. You hadn't told the priest. You hadn't told your husband. You had told her. You say nothing. You nod. You smile. The next day, she brings you violets pressed between pages of parchment, says they reminded her of you. She braids your hair with ribbons the color of dusk, tells you the Duchess is sleeping with the baker's son. She speaks with ease, with rhythm, with affection. You say nothing. But that night, you don't sleep. You lie in bed, staring at the canopy overhead, the carved wooden vines twisting like snakes in the shadows. You remember every smile, every brush of her hand, every time she refilled your cup without asking. You remember how often she asked questions. Small ones. What did the Queen Mother say to you in private? Did your husband seem pleased last week? Have you heard the prince may visit? You remember answering. Every time. In the morning, you pretend nothing's changed. You let her dress you, let her smooth the folds of your sleeves, fasten the brooch at your throat. You walk beside her in the garden. You speak in riddles. She doesn't notice. Or maybe she does. That night, you test her. You tell her something false, just a thread. A whisper of a secret about the Count of Albrecht, and a stolen letter. You make it up. A harmless thing. 2 days later, it reaches the bishop. Loyalty is currency here. And you are bankrupt. When you look at her now, you don't see a girl. You see a message, a mirror, a knife. You begin to measure your words, to rehearse your tone. You practice lying the way you once practiced curtsying quietly, until it becomes muscle memory. You stop sharing dreams. You stop asking questions. You stop trusting the soft sound of her laugh. But you still let her braid your hair. Because appearances are armor. Because it's better to know where the blade is being held. Because you are learning. And the lesson is this. Here, affection is a performance. And betrayal always wears a smile. The great hall has been transformed. Silks hang from the rafters. Wine flows like water. And everything smells like heat musk, cinnamon, crushed petals underfoot. Light blazes from 100 chandeliers. Musicians line the walls, their bows sawing across strings as the dancers blur in circles. The rhythm is dizzying. So is the perfume. So is the weight of every gaze that lands on you. It's your first royal ball. Your dress is gold. Not just in color, actual thread of it, woven into the bodice, trailing like fire down your skirt. Jewels glitter at your throat, too heavy for comfort, each one a symbol of someone else's power. Your corset is tighter than usual, your breathing shallow. You've eaten nothing since morning. and the wine they place in your hand smells like burnt sugar. But you smile. You float. You are the princess tonight. You dance with dukes, with counts, with strangers whose titles you forget before the song ends. You murmur pleasantries, laugh at jokes you barely hear, spin until your shoes begin to stain dark from within. You don't stop, because no one asks if you'd like to. Because this is what you're here for, proof of grace, of beauty, of value. Your husband drinks, loudly. His laugh cuts through the music like a blade. He dances once with a woman whose bodice is scandalously low, and then disappears behind the velvet curtain near the dais. You see nothing after that, but the look on the woman's face tells you enough. No one speaks of it. Your feet ache, burn, pulse in time with the music. The hem of your gown brushes over the marble floor like waves over stone, smoothing it, staining it. You feel the blood before you see it. Just a pinprick at first, then more. The soft squelch in your slipper with each step. Still, you keep dancing. Someone would notice if you stopped. But someone does notice. Not your husband. His brother. He's standing near the edge of the hall, a goblet in one hand, his expression unreadable. He's always quiet, always polite. The kind of man who blends into a room until you realize he's been watching all along. He steps forward before the next partner arrives, offers his hand. You hesitate for half a second, then place yours in his. His touch is cool, steady. His thumb brushes your wrist, almost accidental. Almost. You dance. He's better at it than the others. His movements practiced, patient. He doesn't step on your hem. He doesn't pull too close. But he looks at you. Not at your gown, not at your jewelry, at you. And that's worse. He doesn't ask why your smile falters halfway through the song. He doesn't comment when you wince. But at the final turn, when he spins you neatly back into place, he leans close enough to speak where no one else can hear. Your slipper is bleeding. Your throat tightens. Your spine straightens. You say nothing. He doesn't let go immediately, just long enough to make you wonder what he wants. Then he's gone. The music continues. You dance once more, twice more. Your feet scream in silence. When the final toast is called and the king raises his cup, your vision blurs slightly at the edges. You smile anyway. You clap when everyone claps. You whisper blessings into the air like you mean them. Later, in your chambers, the maids peel the slippers from your feet. The silk inside is dark with blood. Your toes raw. A blister burst. You bite down on a handkerchief as they clean the wounds. The wine you drank earlier churns in your stomach. They ask if you want anything. You shake your head. But when you dismiss them, and the door closes behind their hushed exit, you find a slip of parchment tucked beneath your cloak, folded neatly, unsigned. Just one line. You shouldn't have to bleed to be seen. You burn it in the fire, because kindness here is never free. And now, you owe him something. It appears like a secret tucked inside a breath, folded tight, smooth paper, where there should be only feathers and thread. You find it under your pillow, just as your maid finishes smoothing the blankets for the night. She doesn't notice, or pretends not to. The candle is low, your hands are trembling, and your name is written on the outside in a hand you don't recognize. You unfold it with the care of someone holding a live flame. The words are simple, not the ornate, suffocating lines of courtship written by scribes and approved by fathers. No polished phrases, no metaphors about roses and rubies. Just a note, short, kind. I saw you in the garden. You looked like you could breathe there. I hope you still can. There is no signature, but you know who wrote it. He's a knight, not noble by blood, but noble in posture. He stands at the edge of every hall, not quite in the light, never out of reach. You noticed his eyes first clear and steady, like glass that's seen storms. He speaks only when spoken to, bows a fraction deeper than he needs to, opens doors without looking, and yet, somehow, always knows when you're there. You've exchanged barely a dozen words, but those words were different. "Allow me, my lady. Are you cold?" And once, when your veil caught on the corner of a stone bench, and he helped untangle it without a single glance at your face. "Careful, the wind has teeth. It shouldn't matter, but it does." You read the letter 3 times before slipping it into your sleeve. That night, you sleep with your hand over your heart, as though the paper is still there, still whispering. You don't answer. You can't. But the next morning there's another, left in the crease of your book of Psalms, hidden between sanctity and secrecy. I hope the court is kind today, but if it isn't, remember, it will pass. They always do. You hide this one beneath your mattress. Then another, in your slipper, in the cuff of your glove, always short, always timed when no one's looking, never asking for anything. You begin to wait for them. You reread them in the quiet moments, when the chapel is empty, when the candles burn low, when the silk of your gown begins to itch, and you need something to anchor you. His words are soft. Like the world, might still hold corners untouched by ambition or cruelty. You never speak to him. Not directly, but once, as he walks past with the other guards, you catch his eye. He doesn't smile, just dips his head, barely. You feel it for hours, and still, you say nothing, because nothing in this court is truly hidden, and everything has a price. The Queen Mother watches you more closely now, so does your confessor. The priest mentions temptation in his next sermon. The lady-in-waiting still always near asks if you've been sleeping well. Her smile is too wide. You begin to check the seams of your pillows, the folds of your gowns, not just for letters now, for traps. And when the next one comes, written on finer parchment, smelling faintly of rosemary and dust, you read it once, just once. Then you strike a match and watch it curl to ash in the fireplace. You don't cry, you don't tremble, but your hand shakes when you tuck the ashes under the log. That night, you dream of him, not touching, not speaking, just standing at the edge of a field that doesn't exist, where the sky is the color of linen and the air doesn't smell like fear. He looks at you. That's all. When you wake, your pillow is damp. The next day, you find another letter. You don't open it. You take it to the fire, hold it over the flame, let it burn without reading a word. Hope is dangerous. Even in ink, especially in ink, you tell yourself you don't need it. That surviving is easier when you carry nothing soft. But at night, when the palace quiets and the wind howls through the narrow windows, you press your hand to your chest and feel the ghost of a message that once lived there. And you wonder if it ever really left. The ashes are small, fragile, almost nothing, but someone finds them. Not much is needed to spark suspicion in a place where silence is currency and every whisper carries weight. A maid cleaning the hearth, a flicker of parchment among the embers. Too crisp, too fresh, still curled like a question mark. You don't know who reports it. The lady-in-waiting smiles too easily the next day. The confessor lingers too long when he passes your door. Even the Queen Mother's eyes gleam with something like expectation. It doesn't matter who. It only matters that they did. They call it treason. Not aloud, not first. It begins with a summons, a folded parchment with no seal, no greeting, just your name and a place. The chamber beneath the throne room smells of iron and damp stone. Torches line the walls, sputtering against old soot. The ceiling is high, but the air feels low, pressed down, thinning. You are made to stand. They sit, a semicircle of judgment. Men in robes, in armor, in rings. that catch the torchlight like teeth, your husband among them, higher than the rest. Eyes heavy, jaw set, expression unreadable. He does not look at you when you enter. You are not allowed to speak first. They ask questions with no correct answers. Do you write letters? Do you receive them? Who do you speak to without permission? What do you burn in your chambers? You say you read scripture. You say you pray. You say you burn dried lavender for sleep. They do not believe you. The priest steps forward. He carries a small cloth pouch, ashes inside, stained fingers. He says they were found in your room, smelled of ink. You say nothing. Your mouth is dry. The guard is brought in next. Not him, not the knight. Another. One you do not know. He says he saw you once near the stables. Laughing. He thinks. He can't recall the date, but he thinks it might have meant something. The room agrees that it does. Your hands are cold. You are not allowed to cry. They call it inappropriate conduct. They say it undermines the crown, that it casts doubt on your loyalty, that your position is not decorative, it is sacred, and sacred things must not flirt with disgrace. You begin to shake. You look at your husband. He stands. The room quiets. And for a moment, just a moment, you think he might say something true, something human, that it was a misunderstanding, that you are young, that letters are not crimes. He clears his throat and says, "She has always been sensitive." The words hang in the air like dust. "She is prone to nervous fits," he adds. "She reads too much, imagines more. I will see to her discipline personally." He does not deny the ashes. He does not defend you. The court nods. A punishment is agreed upon. You are confined to your chambers. No visitors, no letters, no chapel, no garden, no walks, no fresh air. 2 weeks, they say, to reflect, to repent. It could have been worse. It should have been worse. You know that. You are nearly ruined. And next time, you will be. You walk back to your chambers flanked by guards who say nothing. The hallway feels longer, the air sharper. Every step echoes like a bell tolling something final. Inside, the windows have been latched shut. Your books are gone. Even the violets on the window sill dried, pressed between pages shave, disappeared. The only thing left is the bed, the mirror, and the silence. You sit on the floor, and for the first time in a long time you are not afraid. You are furious. You let them braid you in silk in obedience. You let them teach you to smile, to bow, to starve, to bleed. You gave them your hands, your mouth, your silence. And still, they called you dangerous for holding a secret in your heart. You want to scream, but you don't. Instead, you begin to plan what silence looks like when it sharpens, because you have learned the rules of this cage. And the next time they come for you, you will not be the one who burns. The sickness comes first, not the fevered kind that blankets your body in heat and rattles your bones, but the quiet, kind morning nausea, a sour mouth, the soft recoil at the smell of cooked meats. You say nothing. Not at first. You've learned that news shared too soon becomes gossip, and gossip becomes danger. But your body tells its secrets anyway. Your gowns stop fitting. Your maid looks at you differently, fingers pausing on buttons too tight to close. The physician is summoned. He presses cold hands to your stomach, listens to your pulse, nods solemnly. You are congratulated. Women you barely know bring sweet herbs and stale advice. The Queen Mother pats your hand with something resembling approval. Your husband smiles for the first time in months, not at you, but at the idea of you. A vessel, doing its job. You are moved to quieter quarters, given more cushions, less to do. Everyone begins to speak around you in softer tones, as if you are glass just before it cracks. No one asks how you feel. You feel terrified, because this one is different. The first time, there was hope. The second, numbness. The third, silence. But this time, the baby moves. It kicks. It grows with force. It takes your appetite, your sleep, your shape. You wake to nosebleeds, to cramps, to cold sweats, and you thank God for every single one. Because pain means presence. You speak to him at night, quietly, when no one can hear. You don't know he's a him yet, but you feel it, like a weight under your ribs, stubborn and ancient. You press your hands to your stomach and whisper things you can't say out loud. Not dreams, just wishes. That he will live. That he will be more than what you were allowed to become. The court waits. Your body becomes the center of gravity. People who once ignored you now linger at doorways, ask the maid how you're sleeping, send small tokens, ribbons, sweets, prayers. Your worth has returned. You are once again valuable. Not because of who you are, but because of what might come out of you. The labor starts in the middle of the night. It comes like thunder behind your hips, slow at first, then with a violence that makes your vision go white. They call the midwives. One whispers a blessing in your ear. Another places hot cloths beneath your back. The pain climbs and climbs until the room feels like it's tilting sideways. You scream into the mattress. No one tells you to be quiet this time. Your husband doesn't come. He waits in another room, drinking with advisors. He'll be informed when it's done, when you've survived or you haven't, when his name will be carried forward or extinguished. You nearly rupture. The blood is everywhere on your thighs, your sheets, the hands of the women shouting over each other. You hear someone say the cord is wrong, that the baby won't turn, that they may have to choose. You grit your teeth, you scream again. But he comes, tiny, slippery, red-faced, and screaming louder than you did. You pass out before they can show him to you. When you wake, he is in a basket beside your bed, wrapped in cloths too fine for something so new. Your body aches like it's been split in two. It has, but he is here. He breathes. He is real. They bring your husband to see him. He nods once, says the name you chose is suitable. Then he leaves, as if the performance is over, as if you haven't just handed the kingdom its next pawn. But you wait until the room is empty. You lift him, awkwardly, against your chest. He is warm and heavy and loud. His eyes are closed. You press your lips to his ear and whisper his name again and again, until it becomes a vow. You'll be better. You don't mean wealth, or land, or titles. You mean free. You mean fierce. You mean loved, because you have survived long enough to give something new to the world. Something not shaped by duty or silence, or blood on linens. You've won a few more years of safety. Maybe more, if he lives. Maybe less, if someone sees too much softness in your eyes. But for now, you hold him like a secret. And for the first time, in a long time, you let yourself hope. The mirror doesn't lie. Not anymore. You're 28, which, in this court, might as well be 50, ancient by bridal standards, matronly by candlelight. The age where stories are told about you, not for you. The age where your name starts to come after someone else is in conversation. The princess, the mother, the one who was. You stare at yourself in the glass that's slightly warped, the kind that blurs just enough to give hope. But even hope has limits. There are lines now, not deep, not yet, but there, around your mouth, your eyes, faint shadows etched by too many nights of silence and too many mornings of pretending. Your skin doesn't glow like it used to. The softness in your cheeks has slipped, like something melting under pressure. You trace the scar just below your ribs, a remnant of your son's birth. You remember the way the midwife stitched it, fingers moving with more speed than care. You cover it again. Down the hall, laughter echoes. New girls have arrived, 16, 17, with fresh curls and gowns too tight. They're eager, eyes wide, smiles brighter than they should be. They flinch at the cold floors, marvel at the tapestries, giggle at the chambermaids. Their skin smells like rose water and ignorance. They walk past you like your furniture. Some bow, a flicker of recognition in their gaze. Most don't. You are not competition anymore. You are part of the architecture, a fixture in a place that only values bloom. Your husband still attends feasts, still drinks too much wine. His teeth are yellower now, his belt tighter, his gaze slower to lift from a décolletage. You notice he doesn't look at you much anymore, not with the boredom of before, but with something closer to forgetfulness. As if you were a song he once liked and now can't recall the tune. The Queen Mother no longer calls you to her chamber. The priest speaks to you only in platitudes. Your son is nearly 10. You watch him from the terrace, sword training in the courtyard, his movements clumsy but earnest. He laughs when he thinks no one is watching. You are always watching. Your letters are shorter now. You write them in your head, mostly, unsent, to no one. You used to keep a journal, hidden between the folds of an old book. You stopped after page 47. The ink faded before the words could find their shape. One of the new girls curtsied too low in front of the Duke. The other ladies whispered about it all evening. You said nothing. You remember when they used to whisper about you, your corset, your hair, your silence. Now they don't bother. You eat less. Not because of vanity, but because your stomach no longer trusts the kitchens. Too many years of salted meats and undercooked fish. You sip broth. You chew mint leaves. You sleep lightly, like someone always listening for her name in the dark. No one calls it anymore. Your maid tries to console you, says you've aged well, that some men prefer experience, that beauty changes. You nod, you smile, you fold your hands in your lap, and thank her for the kindness. She doesn't see the fatigue behind your teeth. The younger girls are learning how to curtsy with the right amount of trembling, how to feign ignorance without appearing stupid, how to bleed at the right time and faint at the right moment. You want to take one of them aside just once and tell her what comes after, what they don't prepare you for, the silences that become heavier than screams, the smile that becomes a mask you forget how to take off, the days where your body belongs to no one and still doesn't feel like yours. But you don't, because no one warned you either. The mirror doesn't lie, and neither do the walls. They remember everything, the screams, the ceremonies, the letters, the bruises, the laughter that turned to echoes. You look at your reflection and try to recall what you used to see there. A girl, a bride, a mother, a survivor. Now, just a woman. Still standing, still breathing, still here, even if no one sees you, even if they never did. You smile at your reflection, because it's expected. It happens without warning. One moment, the king is alive snoring in the chambers down the hall, the stench of wine heavy on his breath, a half-eaten roast still cooling beside his bed. The next, he's not. A seizure, they say, or a stroke, or some curse uttered too close to midnight. You never ask. You don't need the details. You just know that when they knock on your door before dawn, their faces are pale and their hands are trembling. They call you Queen Mother. The words fall like dust. There's no mourning, not really. The court performs black veils, drawn curtains, the priest speaking in reverent tones that don't quite mask his relief. The king's body is wrapped, sealed, entombed. The throne room is draped in shadow, but the morning is hollow. Everything moves too fast. The advisors are already circling. The council is already whispering. Power doesn't pause for grief. Your son is 10. He's too small for the crown, too thin. His voice still cracks when he speaks. But they place the circlet on his head, and the people cheer anyway. A boy king is easier to mold than a man. Easier to shape, to claim. They place him on the throne. They place you beside it. Your chair is lower. They call it ceremonial, temporary, a formality, until your son grows. But every decision passes through hands that are not yours. The chancellor, the bishop, the steward with the ink-stained fingers. They draft policies in back rooms, then hand them to your son to sign with trembling fingers. You are present for all of it, and yet you are not there. You offer advice once, cautiously. A small suggestion on taxation based on the letters you still receive from the outer provinces. The chancellor thanks you for your concern, then does the opposite. You are not consulted again. Your son asks questions at first, looks to you when he's confused, fidgets with the hem of his robe, eyes wide with the weight of a crown he doesn't understand. You answer when you can, gently, honestly, but the council begins to intercept you. They fill his ears with flattery and his schedule with lessons. They praise his judgment when he repeats their words. They scold him when he repeats yours. You become the echo of your own voice. The Queen Mother, regal, silent, decorative. The court reveres you in theory. They bow, they flatter, they call you wise, but their eyes pass through you now, like you're carved from the same wood as the throne. You sign letters of condolence, attend ceremonies, smile when needed. They give you gowns in richer colors and rooms with softer chairs. But you rule nothing, not even yourself. Your chambers are larger now, more windows, more mirrors. Your face looks older in them, not just tired-etched, like parchment left in the sun. You don't sleep much, not because of worry, but because rest feels indulgent when so much has been stolen. Sometimes you walk past the king's old chamber. It still smells like him. You don't go in. You still eat in silence. You still pray out of habit. The chapel candles flicker the same way they always did. You wonder if God even remembers your name. Your son begins to grow taller. His voice deepens. His fingers no longer tremble when he signs. But his eyes, those eyes are harder now. He speaks less, smiles less, wears the crown more like a shield than a symbol. You watch him from your lower chair. You listen to the words placed in his mouth, and you wonder how long it will take before he forgets which ones were ever his. You say nothing, because endurance has always been your kingdom, because you remember what the Queen Mother once told you. Be quiet, be clever, be forgettable. You are all three now, and still, they fear you. You see it in the way they glance at you before speaking, the way they lower their voices when you pass. You've become the ghost of the last regime, not powerful, but dangerous in potential. They keep you close, because banishing you would be a risk, and they know you're watching. You always have been. So you sit, beside the throne you once died for, draped in velvet and restraint, and you wait, not to rule, but to outlast. The stone is colder than you remember. It creaks beneath your steps like an old voice trying to be heard again. The walls curve inward, just slightly, as if the room is exhaling after holding its breath for too long. You haven't been here in years, decades maybe, but the space hasn't changed. The corners still darken early. The hearth still yawns with soot. There's no fire, just the ghost of warmth that lives in memory, and even that is flickering. This was your beginning. You stand at the threshold a long while before stepping in. Your slippers, once white, now muted with years of wear, brush against the same rug where you were once dressed, once stripped, once made into something else. You remember the linen on your skin, the bite of the corset laces, the scent of oil and wax and other people's decisions. There is no mirror here now, just a small wooden stool, a basin cracked down the side, and the outline of a bed you once thought too large for your small, shaking body. You sit down where your reflection once lived, where they used to inspect you, arrange you, tell you who you would become. You sit like a question no one remembered to answer. Your hands rest in your lap, older now, slightly bent, mapped with lines and rings. The veins show clearly, like roots just under the surface. You trace them with your thumb. The silence is familiar, but heavier. You think about the girl you were, 13, awake and afraid, skin pink from the cold, hair pulled so tightly it made your scalp throb. You remember the sting of the comb, the sound of silk being unfolded, the eyes that never blinked while they appraised you. You didn't know then what they were measuring, or how much of you would be spent trying to meet it. You remember your first dress, gold thread, the way it itched. You remember your husband's hands, the way they never asked. You remember the letters, the blood, the vows, the child. Your son is king now. He sits on the throne each morning, his crown resting easily on hair he did not earn. His voice is strong, his chin firm. He has learned not to look to you for answers. That lesson came early. You taught it with your silence. You never told him the whole truth. Not about the letters, not about the warnings, not about the names you've had to bury beneath your breath just to survive the way only women like you do, quietly, completely, and without ceremony. No one remembers your real name. Not the one they stitched onto invitations or carved into goblets. The name before. The one your mother whispered into your ear the night before you left. The one you repeated to yourself in the garden, over and over, afraid it might dissolve. You whisper it now, softly. It echoes once, then falls flat against the stone. You do not cry. You've done that before. You've bled, you've burned, you've bowed. There is nothing left in your body that grieves, only something that waits. Your bones ache. Your lungs flutter like something caged. You close your eyes and inhale, expecting the scent of rosemary or lavender. But the air is still, hollow, dusty. Even the candles in the wall sconces have melted to stumps, wax hardened into white veins. You wonder if this is what dying feels like. Not the violence they write into history books, not the glory that ballads cling to, but a slow undoing, a vanishing, so gradual it almost feels like returning. No one calls your name. No one knocks. The fire has long since gone out. You place your hand on the stone beside you. It's cold, but not unkind. You lean back until your spine meets the wall, and for the first time in years, you let yourself be held. Not by a person, by silence, by the room, by the truth that everything built to imprison you has also, somehow, kept you standing. You smile, not wide, just enough. And then, like the breath of a candle before it gutters, you sigh and vanish.